Hey guys, I'm Gene Delasala, president of Audioholics, and we are back covering CEDIA with
Marshall Guthrie, Audioholics videographer, fresh back off the road, safe and sound with a lot of talk from the CEDIA conference.
Cool Marshall. Well, I think the next topic, and we love covering this, are what are all the new speakers that you saw at CEDIA, because there were a lot of announcements. So tell us give us a rundown of what you saw, basically.
Yeah, of course, everybody loves speakers. They're the things that are making the noise, right? Last link in the system besides your room and your ears.
The most important.
Exactly. So I think one of the big buzzes that was out there was the DefTech Demand series. So Definitive Technology has been known for high quality speakers for a long time. Really focused on bipolar to a certain extent, and now kind of getting into a little bit with the passive radiators as well. And that's where the Demand series is taking them. With the Demand series, there are 3 speakers in the lineup: a 4.5, a 6.5, and then in the middle is a 5.25. Got to get all those right. 4.5, 5.25, 6.5. Each of these has a 1-inch aluminum dome tweeter, and that tweeter is offset a little bit to help a little bit with the integration with the woofer. And then on top of that, there is also there are passive radiators in there to extend that bass response a little bit. All kind of stand mount bookshelf speaker style, whatever you want to call it. They don't have a tower in the system yet. And these were what they were featuring in their demo. So again, you think about the money that these folks have to pay to come to a conference like CEDIA. They're going to trot out their biggest and best for their demo. And DefTech was coming in with stand mount bookshelf speakers for their demo. It shows how much confidence they have in this series.
So let's just give a quick rundown on price. The D7s are, I think, $4.99 a pair. The D9s are $7.49 a pair, and then the D11, which is their flagship, which is about $9.99 a pair. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Did you get a chance to hear these demos?
Yeah, so CEDIA is a mess. All conferences are a mess when it comes to demoing, because most demos are done on an open floor. At CES, sometimes they get away into a separate hotel room. Well, at CEDIA, the rooms were conference rooms, and they were kind of built into these sort of the prefab rooms. They'd throw up 3 padded walls and pop you in there. And so I heard this in a room that was about 20 by 20. I think that, if memory serves, there were about 9 or 10 of us in there. And we heard them coupled with, if memory serves, an Oppo DVD player, Blu-ray player, I should say, and then a Marantz Electronics powering everything. Again, DefTech is part of the Sound United brand that we talked about in our last episode, and so they're a sister brand to Marantz.
Right, right. Okay, well, I mean, they look like great speakers, and we like the prior generation speakers, the Studio series. We were big fans of those, so this looks like it's even higher value for your money, so I'm kind of curious to see how they compare. But wondering if they're also going to come up with floor standing speakers. That would be interesting as well.
Yeah, I suppose it all comes down to how many bookshelf speakers they sell. You know, if people out there want to see the floor standers, make sure you're buying into the Demand series, and I'm sure that if the demand is high enough, pun intended, they'll keep cranking out new models.
Well, I know the next brand that we looked at, you did a very comprehensive interview with Elac and Andrew Jones. I don't think we're going to cover it much in this video, since you already have a 20 or 30 minute video.
No, we don't need to talk about it. People don't need to hear me talking about it if you can hear Andrew talk about it. So make sure that you are checking out the Elac video that we posted into our channel to learn more about the Z3 Discovery speaker system, which is a speaker system that you can use to get audio throughout your home, either over Bluetooth or the Elac Discovery server with Roon software, or via AirPlay, Sonos connected, a bunch of other Sonos, both Sonos and Spotify, I believe, among others. And then they also had a really unique technology that they were using to develop an in-wall subwoofer, which allowed them to use the impedance of the subwoofer coupled with a lookup table to run an EQ off of your smartphone in the same way that they do with their pre-manufactured subwoofers when they don't know the volume of the sub enclosure. So if folks want to hear more about that, make sure that you're looking at our Elac interview, very comprehensive interview with Andrew Jones and Chris from Elac, and you're going to find that on the YouTube channel for Audioholics.
You'll also find their new flagship series, the Adante, I think they're called.
Yes, Adante, yes.
They look really nice, and I definitely want to be checking out some of those this year. And in fact, you'll probably get some of those as well to review.
Okay.
So what about GoldenEar? What have our friends at GoldenEar done this year?
So GoldenEar, again, CEDIA is a big part of CEDIA is focused on the install crew, the custom install folks. So we're talking in-wall speakers. And so GoldenEar introduced their Invisa Signature line. They've had Invisa speakers for a while, but this is the first one they're giving the Signature moniker to. It's a 2.5-way system, tweeter flanked by 2 woofers, and then an additional 2 woofers that cut off. I can't remember if it was the outside woofers, the inside woofers that cut off at a little bit lower frequency. But what you get is you get bass response that extends down pretty low without having some of the phasing issues that come with having more full-range woofers adjacent to a tweeter sandwiched in between them, especially when you're looking at the off-axis response. And so they did put a lot of thought into the design, and it showed in the demo that they were in. So this is one where I was able to sit through, again, time is precious out there, but I was able to sit through a little bit of video and a song demo as well. And they played the Beach Boys in my room, and that song sounded fantastic. Huge and open and spacious, and it was being processed through an Atmos up mixer, but immediately the detail that was present in these in walls is not something that I was expecting, and especially sometimes the bass can get a little bit muddy, the mid bass especially when you're in a wall enclosure. So they actually had these in some pre-constructed enclosures meant to simulate a wall, and they sounded wonderful. And so just from both the perspective of Sandy Gross running the demo, doing a fantastic job as he always does, all the way to the type of content that they selected, it really allowed these speakers to shine, and it was one of the most enjoyable demos that I was at.
So what about Polk? What have they been doing with their soundbars? Because we were blown away by the MagniFi Mini last year. Did they have an upgrade to that this year?
Yeah, speaking of fantastic demos, so again, the GoldenEar demo we just talked about was in a room with a closed door. It was a more controlled environment. Polk had the audacity to show off their MagniFi Mini in this giant open demo. They had one of the bigger displays. In fact, Sound United was everywhere. They were plastered on the buses, they were on your drink coaster, and so Polk, being one of the Sound United brands, was at one of the biggest demos, one of the biggest booths. And so it was basically just this huge open wall with this sound bar, and they were inviting people to come in and get a demo of a sound bar when all around you going on is other people cranking out their demos and just all this ambient noise. And so in terms of quality of sound, I can only tell you what I heard with all that ambient noise, and it's that the quality of the sound pumped out by the MagniFi Mini was good. We were watching a clip from Deadpool, and you could hear a lot of the detail in it was the scene at the very beginning where the car goes end over end, the guy on the motorcycle gets pulled the wedgie. You could hear a lot of the detail in there, but what was most impressive, and this included the wireless surround speakers as well, is the MagniFi Max SR, and this SR stands for surround. What was most impressive is that when this demo was cranking out, it held its own against all that ambient noise in the back. And so you're not going to have a problem filling a big room in a house using just this sound bar.
So the sound bar, is it $600 and it comes with the surround speakers as well?
It comes with the surround speakers for $600. So you get the large sound bar, the wireless subwoofer, and the surround speakers. And again, a lot of these times these are running on Wi-Fi channels. Imagine how many Wi-Fi access points were running in this convention center full of all these technology folks. And it all worked. The surround speakers worked, the subwoofer worked, even with all that noise in the band. So,
and I don't know if you've mentioned this, the surround speakers are wireless, are they not?
Yes, surround speakers are wireless. So everything is wireless. The only wires that you have is going to bring power to those units. And a thing that seems very simple, but it's going to make your life a whole lot easier, is the mounting, the way that these speakers are mounted. Instead of doing the old keyhole slot where you kind of have to drill a hole in your wall and guess and hope it lines up perfectly with the holes in the back of your speakers, they have this little lip. It might be familiar, folks that are familiar with a Z-clip style. Basically, there's a small channel that runs under the speaker. And so even if you're an inch off one way or the other with the hole in the wall, you can pop that center channel, the sound bar down, and then you can center it perfectly behind your speaker without having to measure 5-6 times and make sure you get your keyholes in exactly the right place. Just really consumer friendly. Yeah,
no doubt. So who else was showing some sound bars that maybe stood out at the show?
There were quite a few passive sound bars, and so these are the kind that you would hook up a traditional audio video receiver to, but they're a single enclosure with your left, center, right speakers all in there. The folks at MartinLogan had one of those. They had the MartinLogan SLM X3, times 3, I guess, for your left, center, right. And so there again you have the classic folded AMT style tweeter that you find in all the MartinLogan gear, and with that 3 independent sets of binding posts that you'll hook up to a traditional audio video receiver. Right next door at the Paradigm booth, Paradigm is running a custom shop now for their on-wall speakers. So if you've got a television that's exactly 52.5 inches wide, they will make you a speaker with all center, left, and right speakers in the same enclosure that's exactly the width of that television. Or you can go with separates. You can go with a single center channel and a vertical left and a vertical right, again matched to the exact width and height of your television. So it's like you're creating a frame around your television. If you're
and they claim they could do it in 3 days, from what I saw in their press release.
Yes, yeah, and they're pretty serious about cranking these things out. They got a lot of little elves in the workshop cranking these things out. And they'll even get as custom if you've got one of these televisions. I know Samsung has done this on older models, where there's a little logo bump out at the bottom. They'll actually create that bump out in your speaker so that it fits in there like a puzzle piece.
Nice.
Another great demo that I was at was the RBH demo. So first off, the guys at RBH, I was talking with Darren a lot. I think Shane was there too. I'm trying to remember. I met so many folks. Shane, I'm sorry if I forgot whether or not you were there. But they're super nice guys and super accommodating of everybody that swings by. And so they allowed us to get not one, but 2 sneak peeks. They were kind of limiting photos, but they allowed us to get some photos of 2 things that they're working on. So the first thing that they're working on is integrating Bluetooth amplifiers into a lot of their speaker series. Not every single speaker that they do, but a lot of the speakers that we've grown to know and love that we have to hook up to external amplification now because they're passive, they're going to be making into active speakers that you could run off of your desk or off of a more simple setup with, again, maybe one of those previously mentioned Amazon Dots connected to it. They'll have Bluetooth and traditional line-in and optical on the back, and so we were able to get a couple shots of those. And those look really, just a really inventive way to take things that we know work, the classic RBH speaker design, and upgrade them for the future technology where we're going to want to be able to hook up an Amazon Dot, or we're going to want to be able to go Bluetooth into those.
Cool. And you also got a chance to hear the new SV with the AMT tweeter. Is that correct?
That is correct. I got to hear their classic stack up front, and then also they are making a, forgive me, I got to look at my notes on the numbers here. It's a 661, the SV661R. That stands for their reference series. That again is the one with the folded tweeter, the AMT tweeter. But they're making a slim model. And so that was the one that Darren and I went back. He's like, I don't know if I want you to take a shot of it yet or not. I don't know if we're quite ready to announce it. And finally I broke him down. He said, okay, go for it. Take some photos. So you're going to see the photos in the video here. This is kind of an Audioholics exclusive perhaps. And these are designed to have all the performance of their signature series in a model that's going to work really well for your surround channels, or really well for people that want a couple main front channels, but they want to be really low profile for those televisions or other displays that are on the wall there.
Right. Well, cool. We have a lot of stuff looking forward with RBH, and they even have that on-wall AMT. I think it's the 2 6s and the AMT tweeter and an MTM. I'm looking at actually possibly using those as a side channel when I switch from my dipoles to monopoles. So guys, stay tuned. In the next few months I might be checking those out and comparing them to my dipoles.
Yeah. Another one that we covered in an additional video, I'm going to ask folks to go check that video out, and that's Monoprice. Again, I'll mention it here, and it's just because there wasn't a lot in terms of new subwoofage that I saw at CEDIA. For whatever reason, it seems like maybe more of those pop up at CES. But Monoprice was showing off a trio of THX-rated subwoofers. It's a 10, a 12, and a 15-inch, and the most attractive thing here is, of course, the price, as Monoprice is known to really keep the prices low. $500, $800, and $1,300 on those. The THX rating is kind of coming back into prominence as meaning something again. And what it means is that this is a rating that is going to tell you that these are going to handle a certain capacity room. And I think you have a little bit more insight on that, don't you, Gene?
Yeah, you know, THX basically revamped the whole rating scheme. They're working with an outside company to do this. And it's very interesting that years after we've come up with our Bassaholic rating, that the THX ratings are very compatible with our Bassaholic ratings. And we're going to be talking more about that in the coming months, because I just saw a lot of correlations. We could actually tell you the extreme Bassaholic room size rating is the top rating for the THX, and there's a lot of compatibility there. So I'm glad people are paying attention to what we're doing, and I'm glad that the THX stamp actually means something now when it comes to speakers, because in the past you really didn't know what you were getting with them, but these look like really hard-hitting subs for the prices. And in fact, our own writer James Larson is going to be reviewing these subs and doing a full battery of measurements on them. So you're going to see just how much performance you get out of these subs for these prices. It's going to be very exciting for bassaholic heads.
Man, I can't stand James. He makes every other reviewer out there, myself included, look bad when it comes to those subwoofer reviews, because he gets down to the nitty gritty. So thorough, so thorough.
He is. He's an asset to our team. I'm glad he's there.
Yeah. So one of the things that we don't talk too much about is some of the add-ons, the accessories, let's call them. But when you're thinking about building these systems that might cost you several $1,000s, it's really important that you look at some of the things that you can do to protect those systems. So I wanted to highlight two products that we see a lot of at CES that really stood out to me. And the first is from a company called Furman. Many people know who Furman is. They create power protection for a wide variety of applications, all the way from government applications down to consumer level. And what they were showing off was the Furman Power Elite 15XC. This is a robust power protection unit. It is non-sacrificial surge protection. That means that when the lightning strikes, it doesn't toast itself, it doesn't melt itself, but it's more advanced than that. It protects your equipment and the Furman unit itself. And one of the things they were showing that was really interesting was their Blue Bolt add-on. And so Blue Bolt is the brand name for their IP connected protocol. It allows you to use a web browser, use cloud software to check the status of your power supply, your power protection, excuse me. It'll tell you how much it's drawing, it'll tell you whether everything's in a good state, it'll tell you what the current flow coming in is, and it'll let you know if you have problems that you need to be aware of. And so it's the type of thing that might come in useful in a home scenario. If you're at work and there's a problem, you could find out about that. But it's also the kind of thing that if you have multiple units, or if you're a custom installer and you have to keep track of a lot of high-end customers and how their units are doing, you could be doing that for them as well as part of an add-on service. And so it's one of those things that sounds super fancy, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not all that expensive. You're looking at $800 for the power unit itself, and then $250 for the add-on for the IP protocol, if that's what you want. You don't have to pay for it if you don't want it. And so,
yeah, that makes sense. They're not forcing it down your throat to have the monitoring and all that services. You just get the basic performance, protect your equipment for the flat $800 and not have to worry about that.
And I just lost, they switched out a power meter on the side of my house and didn't give me notice, and there was a little surge, and I lost a computer power supply. Let me tell you, being down, especially as a video editor, down with your main computer for 3 or 4 days throws a crimp in the works. And so the insurance policy that I'm looking at, getting one of these $800 units and protecting my entire home theater, protecting my home server off it because they're co-located, those would be money well spent the next time I have a power surge and I go replace a computer hardware.
Oh yeah, understood. Especially with me living in Florida, I could relate to that.
Yeah, all that weather, the lightning is a little furious down there.
Yes, it is.
Another thing that people don't often think about when it comes to protecting their equipment is heat. And heat is actually one of the easier things to deal with. So number one, don't put your equipment in tiny little boxes with sealed doors. But sometimes we need to do that. Sometimes we need to keep things looking attractive from the outside. And so there's a company that I've been looking at for a while now because they offer really cost-effective ventilation solutions. They have fans with thermoprobes. They will run the fans higher depending on how much heat there is and lower when there isn't. And this is a company called AC Infinity. And what really drew me to them is that this is a pretty sophisticated piece of equipment, an equipment that changes the speed of the fan based on the temperature that it's sensing. It comes in a couple different form factors. It's a rack that you could just set on top of your equipment. It could go into the front of a screw-in rack. It's a ducted system, so you could build it into a custom cabinet. And most of these start for less than $100. I've been there. I've touched my receiver after I've been watching movies all day long, and it's warm. And so to be able to spend less than $100 and keep things a little bit cooler and stretch out the life of that expensive equipment with stuff from AC Infinity, I was really impressed that they weren't trying to gouge consumers on what's a pretty straightforward solution to making your gear last a little bit longer and maybe perform a little bit better.
Yeah, heat is a big killer of longevity, so it's always good when you can minimize it, especially if you have a cost-effective solution and it doesn't add a lot of background noise into your room. Definitely worth checking out.
I've got one other. Again, I mentioned, I think in the last video, I'm going to be going and building a house, and we have a fireplace in the house. Home theater people know it is a love-hate relationship with the fireplace. Because you usually want to put the TV above it.
Right above it, yeah.
Right above it. And as a result, your TV is too high, and if you try to pull it down low, it can catch a lot of heat from the fireplace. So there's a company called MantleMount. And what MantleMount does is something we've seen some other folks do too. They create a mount where your television kind of hangs on the wall, but then you can take it and actually pull it out and down. So it kind of pulls out in front of your fireplace. Usually this is done manually, but MantleMount has one now that's going to be automated. So from a press of a button on your Control 4 system or Crestron, or again, Amazon Echo, the Echo system, what's going to happen is that will come down, it'll be motorized, it'll come down, and it'll also swivel left-right, and you can do multiple positions. So if you have some seating off to the left, or maybe you got kind of an open kitchen concept, you can set it up to point the television at your kitchen or off to a side seat. Or you can have a separate setting which then goes down and just sort of faces directly ahead at your main seating. And most importantly, there's a thermal sensor. So if you accidentally mash the button or turn on your fireplace while your television's down, it'll sense that things are getting too hot, and it'll retract that television back up to where it's safe. It's not inexpensive, $1,600, but again, for folks that are looking at building a nice little family room system and they want something that'll get their television down to eyeball level, it might be a good investment.
That sounds pretty slick. Unfortunately, it's not something I'd be reviewing in Florida because we never have a use for a fireplace here, but man, that sounds really cool.
In Oregon, I think mostly we just like the way it looks, but it gets a little chilly. We run ours from time to time.
Sure.
The last thing I'll touch on is, and one of the reasons why I'm bringing this up is because somebody in our YouTube comments mentioned this. YouTubers, if you're watching us, leave us comments. We're reading those. We're taking that feedback and we're trying to give you the content that you want. And that's the NEEO remote. Again, I did a video on NEEO a while back, including an interview at a CES, I think it was 2016 CES. And so what you need to know about this is it's a touchscreen remote. It has very basic physical controls matched to a touchscreen display. And so what this allows you to do is run the buttons that you're going to press the most often. The volume button. You push that sucker up or down 1,000,000 times over the course of your home theater's life. That gets a physical button. But something that you're only pressing maybe once or twice during each viewing session, a power on or switching inputs, those are going to the touchscreen. Well, those NEEO remotes are shipping right now. They're not done with the pre-order yet because it's only shipping to their Kickstarter backers and some other folks that are sort of associated with NEEO. But those are going to start getting produced wide. So for the YouTuber that said, what's the status on the NEEO remotes, those are going out to the Kickstarter backers. They're going out to some of the journalists, I think, and some of the folks that are using those for development purposes. And then those are going to be going out to the general pre-order public coming up any day now. So if you're interested in NEEO, check back in with them.
And how are these products programmed? Are they IP controlled, or is it an easy interface for people? Because that's the problem with a lot of these universal remotes, is they're unusable in terms of programming them.
Yeah, so they're under $400 right now for the pre-order. I want to say they're like $360, $370, and I think they're going to go up to $399 once the pre-order is over. So compared to a Crestron system that you're talking thousands and thousands of dollars, and you have to have a professional come in, it's lower cost, and it's designed to be programmed from a smartphone app. I think that you can get a little bit more granular because it is a true smart home hub. They have Z-Wave and Zigbee in there. It's designed to be the center of your smart home. You can get a little more granular. But a lot of their recipes, that is the multiple commands that go into a single action, those are set through a smartphone app as far as I can tell.
Oh, wow, that sounds pretty slick. I want to be looking at that.
And the hardware is fantastic. I held it in my hand. It's got this nice little magnetic snap base. Gene, if this thing said Apple on it, there'd be people lined up down the street to buy this. It feels like an Apple quality Johnny Ives style product.
And they would spend $1,000 because they're spending that now on the new iPhone.
Yeah, exactly, right? If it would have the Apple premium to it. So I'm still very impressed with the NEEO folks. Yes, it's still early. Yes, if Apple were involved, Tim Cook would have had this thing shipped on time. But Raphael and the team are just doing a really good job for a startup, for a small company. And so I'm kind of rooting for them. You know, you want to root for the underdogs.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So somebody was asking on our forums, I think, about transparent screens or just whatever kind of screen technology you saw at the show. Did you see anything that was worth noting?
Another one of my favorite demos. was Seymour, Screen Excellence, and Wolf Projection. And they were showing off a new acoustically transparent screen. It's called their Enlightener NEEO. So they have an Enlightener that's been out. This is the NEEO version of this. They told me it was an acoustically transparent screen. And Gene, what's the first thing that you do if somebody says that's an acoustically transparent screen? What's one of the first things you do to check it out?
I guess from a sound standpoint, I would want to measure the speaker, with and without the screen to see how much loss you get. And I guess I would want to see if you can actually see the speaker behind it, if it's messing up the image. I mean, I would be kind of looking at those two things.
Exactly. So they're saying there's about a 1 dB derivation across the frequency range from a speaker that's out in the room versus a speaker that's behind the screen. So that
Right.
does make a difference, but it's small enough that you can correct a lot of that with some EQ if you're going to be particular about it. Now,
And now you could get your center channel up to ear level, because you could take a horizontal speaker and put it vertical, and you could get the same dispersion characteristics as your left and right speakers.
Absolutely. It's one of the things that drives me nuts is there's times that my ears can tell. They can locate that center channel below my screen. I've got it up as high as I can get it. If I'm scooched too far on the couch, it's up so high. If I'm scooched too far down the couch, it kind of goes into my screen image. But yeah, getting that center channel up to where it sounds like it's actually coming out of the moving lips on your screen, super important. And you're talking about whether you can see the speaker.
Especially if you have a multi-row theater room, because you put a center channel below the screen, the second row, you're listening to this center channel through the other person's head.
Yeah, through their head and through your knees. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned the other thing, can you see the speaker behind it? They told me it was an acoustically transparent screen. Whenever I hear that, I start walking up until I can kind of see the weave or the pinholes in there. You can try this at your local movie theater. Go up there, you can see the holes in the screen. I took a step forward. I kept walking. My nose was pretty much pressed against this screen until I could see any sort of apparent pass-through. You could see a little bit of grain before that, but this is not your typical perforated screen where it looks like somebody took a screen door to it, took a little pin to it and poked a bunch of pinholes in it. This is a very tight weave that allows that screen to reflect back as much of the light from the projector as possible.
Nice. Well, I mean, Seymour's always done high quality products. So I wouldn't put it past them as to having something that's performing like you say it is.
Yeah, and they're Iowa boys, so I got to root for Iowa.
Oh, there you go.
So
all right, so we're done with all the tech stuff. I think what people want to know is, what demos did you see that were bad? What demos did you see that were good? Because it's a mixed bag every time I go to these shows. There's a couple that stand out, and a lot of them just you want to put earplugs in or you want to leave. Give us your rundown of what you saw.
So I'm going to sound like a prima donna, but I've got a lot of ground that I need to cover. I got a lot of stuff strapped to my back. So if I sit down for 30 minutes with somebody and I'm doing a full demo, it's got to be worth my time. And to that extent, I already mentioned a couple folks that did great demos. GoldenEar, they spend a lot of time playing content, not a lot of talking. Nothing wrong with framing things. Did a lot of playing content, both music and movie content. You got to do both. The Definitive Technology folks, they did a little bit, like 5 minutes or so, just talking about the product beforehand, giving us the broad specs, not the minutia, the broad specs, and then again, jumping right into a multitude of cuts, both in stereo and surround, both music and movie content. That's the way to do a demo. Give us a little bit of talk, and then jump right into stuff that we can see and stuff that we can hear. I'm not going to name this company, but they're on my poop list, and this is why. They started their demo about 5 minutes late. That's fine. I run late at CEDIA too. I get that CEDIA time is different than everybody else.
Right.
But then they talked for over 20 minutes before they showed a single clip, before they played a single sound cue. Just talked at us for over 20 minutes.
And what were they doing? They were trying to precondition what you were going to hear before you heard it?
Oh, just telling us how great this was. And in fairness, there was probably a lot of engineering stuff that some engineers in the audience would have gone gaga over. But
right.
Yes, they're trying to impress you with, oh, we use this particular film with this type of circuitry, and there's this system. And you know what? At the end of the day, why don't you let your content speak for itself? If you need to talk for 25 minutes, number one, you lost me after a single clip because I had somewhere else to be. And number two, if your stuff is that good, play a few things first, let us be impressed, and then tell us what went into your system that made it so impressive.
Yeah, I gotcha. It's hard because you just want to walk out at that point, but you're like, it's going to happen soon, it's going to happen soon, and you're looking at your watch, and it's 20, 30 minutes later, you've invested, and you don't have that kind of time.
Yeah, no, it's exactly it. 10 minutes, I thought any minute now. 15 minutes, I thought any minute now. The other thing is, and this is tough because the Dolby demo disc is an easy one to pop in, get a bunch of clips in Atmos or one of the other formats, and get it in 4K now, too. They have a 4K Dolby demo disc, so that disc was everywhere. So some people would think this is a good thing because then you get to see the same clip, the same content in multiple systems. You can kind of judge one system to the other. Well, number one, that's dangerous because the only thing that's the same is the content. Everything else changes. The room changes, your seating position changes, the speaker position changes, the electronics change. And so the pros of having similar content get outweighed pretty quickly. The cons of having similar content is that after you've been on the show floor for 8, 9, 10 hours, after you've seen 14, 15 other demos, seeing the same clip from Unbroken again,
oh man,
kills me. And the Unbroken clip is also one of these where there's a lot of high frequency content. It's a World War II, I believe it was, airplane sequence. This airplane's getting shot down. You hear the from the airplanes and the whizzing bullets, and just a lot of high frequency content that with some of these folks, they like to show off how loud their speakers play. And I get that it sounds like there's a bullet being blown by my ears, but the thing about bullets is they want you to wear hearing protection when you're shooting. I shouldn't have to wear hearing protection at a demo. Shouldn't have to wear hearing protection in my own.
A couple of trade shows ago, they were playing the Mad Max demo over and over and over again. I won't even watch that movie. I mean, I'm traumatized from seeing the same clip so many times that I just have no desire to see the movie.
So this again goes back to that GoldenEar demo, hearing something that I didn't hear anywhere else, hearing something that's still familiar, Beach Boys, in my room. That's something that really stands out and really makes for a great demo. So yeah, if you got to play the Unbroken clip, play the Unbroken clip, but then follow it up with something different, something that I'm not going to see anywhere else.
I gotcha, yeah. It would be nice if you could actually bring in your own demo material, but there's never enough time to do that.
Yeah, and the problem now is with all these USB thumb drive style flash disks that are going around, a lot of those come pre-infected with nonsense. They won't even let you plug in a flash drive anymore.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like for the most part you heard some good demos, you saw some great tech, speakers, impressive speakers, stuff that's reasonably priced for high-end audio. Alexa integration, which is exciting that we want to be checking out. It sounded like we did get some good technology leaps forward in this trade show. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And let me be clear, there's dozens of people that I talked to that I got video footage of. We're trying to put as much of the content up as possible, but it can't all fit onto, we've got about 30 minutes of video content just right now on this. We've done other segments. There's a lot at CEDIA. I was there for 2 days. And so for just demonstrators at CEDIA, if I stopped by and I talked to you and you didn't get a shout out in this video, keep it up. You're all doing good work. We appreciate everything that you do. It's just that it's a lot to cover. And so I want to thank everybody that took some time to meet with us at CEDIA, took some time to really appreciate what Audioholics does. We'll see you at CEDIA. We'll see you at CES next year. And thanks to all the viewers, obviously, for wanting this content. We put out what you want to see.
Yeah, and Marshall, thank you for going out and representing Audioholics and doing all this great coverage for us. I think it was a successful show. We got to see some new stuff. We got some great editorial on the site, so you guys should be checking out audioholics.com. Check out our Facebook. We got a lot of audio porn pictures there for you in case you didn't, we didn't cover all this stuff in these videos. We have Marshall probably took, I'd say, about 300 pictures. At least.
At least. I'll do a final count sometime. But yeah, film is cheap these days. What are you going to do? You take a lot of shots.
It is. Well, guys, I think that wraps it up. Why don't you talk to us, give us some comments below on the products that you saw that we liked, that you're interested in, or tell us what you're looking for in the next time we do the trade show coverage. And we'll be listening, and we'll be covering more stuff next year. This is something we do every year, so just keep that in mind. And until next time, guys, keep listening.